in the studio in London. Much appreciated.
Very much.
I just want to start with Iran. It's such a concern to so many of our viewers, the escalating tensions. Donald Trump coming out over the weekend saying that he could potentially be targeting Iranian sites if they respond. Now we've just saw the tweet for Iran's foreign minister saying that that would be effectively a war crime.
Yeah.
What's your view on what's happening?
So I think this is a really, really dangerous moment for the entire world and for Britain in particular. What we need to see is a Prime Minister who, to be honest, should have already recalled Parliament in order to explain what his strategy is, how he's going to work with our European allies to try and de-escalate the situation. There's no question that Soleimani is a dangerous individual who's done some terrible, terrible things, including putting down those pro-democracy protests in Iran. But actually, one of the things that's happened since Trump took this reckless unilateral action a few days ago is that we've seen those pro-democracy movements falling apart, that people getting behind the Iranian regime. I think we potentially have a really, really dangerous and permanent situation that could escalate into all-out war unless the world leaders step up and speak with one voice and try to make sure that we take a multilateral approach to try and calm this situation.
I'm keen to talk about your pitch for the Labour leadership, what you've come on the programme, of course, to talk about. I asked Emily Thornberry the same question. She didn't quite say yes. Do you think that Jeremy Corbyn was a good leader of the Labour Party?
I think he did something profoundly important for us, and I want to say this because it really matters to me, and I think we're in danger of learning the wrong lessons from what has just happened. If you cast your mind back to 2015, we were knocking on people's doors in an election, saying to people who were seeing the social fabric falling apart, who'd had 5 years of austerity, who were really, really deeply worried about the crumbling infrastructure and the chances for their children. And we were saying to people, we'll give you £3 off your energy bill and we'll give you 12 quid off your childcare. And it just didn't cut it. People were looking for deeper and much more fundamental change. And at the same time, we were saying to people, if you give us permission to govern, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we don't let immigrants into this country, that we're not, we don't raise benefits too much, that we're not paying people a living wage. All of those things actually were really problematic for the Labour Party because we are a party that has to have the courage of our convictions and wear our values on our sleeves.
So why did you just have your worst election defeat since the 1930s?
Trust. Trust was the issue, not the radicalism, not the deep and fundamental change that we were promising, but trust. It says in our constitution, Labour seeks the trust of the people to govern, and people didn't trust us. One of the things I really felt during the election was that when the Tories said get Brexit done, the more that we talked about what was happening in the NHS, the crisis in the NHS, rough sleeping, mental health, the chaos on the railways, which I know you're going to talk about in a moment, the falling apart of the bus network. Every time we talked about those things, people turned around to us and said, we agree with you, but then in order to deal with that, you've got to get Brexit done. And it gave a potency to the Tory message that we just hadn't understood.
You say that the radicalism appealed, but you won't trust it, but those things are linked, aren't they? People didn't trust it because they thought it was too radical, that it was basically pie in the sky.
I'm not sure that they thought it was too radical. Certainly when we were talking to people, for example, about renationalising the railways, people felt it was a no-brainer. They couldn't believe that we hadn't been talking about it before. But what they really didn't trust us to do was to get our priorities right. When we said that we would offer free broadband, I remember somebody in Leeds saying to me, I just want a functioning bus network.
Lisa Nandy, thank you very much for coming on the programme, setting out your pitch for the Labour Party leadership. I appreciate it. Well, that is it for this week. Thanks for watching.
Well, you're watching Sky News. Lots more coming away with me at midday, including a war of words erupting on Twitter between the US and Iran over the killing of the military commander Qasem Soleimani. That's as funeral processions continue in Mashhad in Iran.